60-year-old woman offers $1 million to a 20-year-old man to marry her. But first, remember to subscribe to our channel so we can keep sharing incredible stories. Jake Thompson, a 20-year-old with big dreams, works long shifts at a quaint coffee shop in Brookside, a quiet American town. His days are a mix of serving coffee to the regulars, saving every tip, and planning for his future. Jake dreams of owning his own business someday. He's saving up bit by bit, trying to gather the funds needed to make his ambitions a reality. But with each day, the path forward feels as uncertain as it does steep. One morning, Jake notices a new face among the usual customers. A refined, older woman, Evelyn Grant, in her early 60s, steps into the coffee shop. Dressed with understated elegance and an air of mystery, Evelyn draws Jake's attention right away. She becomes a regular, always sitting at the same corner table and ordering the same coffee, black with a dash of cream. Over the following weeks, Jake and Evelyn fall into friendly, casual conversation. They talk about life, books, and dreams, and Jake starts to admire her intelligence and worldliness. One day, however, their conversation takes a shocking turn. As they chat, Evelyn looks him in the eye and in a quiet voice makes him an unexpected offer. "Jake," she begins, holding his gaze steadily, "if I offered you $1 million to marry me, would you do it?" Jake laughs, thinking it's a joke. "Good one, Evelyn. You got me there." But Evelyn isn't smiling. She maintains her serious expression and repeats herself, carefully outlining the terms: $1 million if he marries her and stays married for at least a year. Jake stares back at her, stunned. He knows that Evelyn is wealthy, though she has never been flashy about it. But offering him, a near stranger, that much money for a marriage of convenience is unthinkable. He fumbles for words, wondering if this is some kind of bizarre test or prank. "What? Why? Why would you ask something like that?" he finally stammers, his mind reeling from her proposal. Evelyn shakes her head, a hint of sadness crossing her face. "I can't tell you why, Jake. All I can say is that I need someone I trust, and I trust you. But if you don't want to, I understand." She pauses, giving him a small, kind smile that only deepens the mystery. Jake, still in shock, realizes his life just changed in an instant, with only one choice in front of him. He knows his answer will impact him in ways he can't yet imagine. Jake spends the next few days caught in a whirlwind of disbelief and uncertainty. Evelyn's proposal haunts his thoughts, and he can't shake the image of her calm, sincere expression as she made her offer. $1 million would solve so much. He could pay off his family's debts, help his younger sister through college, and finally have the funds to start his own business. But a marriage, and to a woman he barely knows, no matter how kind and interesting she may seem. The next time Evelyn comes to the coffee shop, Jake decides to confront her, hoping to understand more of her motivations. He finds her sitting alone in her usual corner, reading a book. She looks up when he approaches, setting the book aside as he slides into the seat across from her. "Evelyn, I've been thinking about what you said. I don't understand why you'd ask me. Of all people," Jake begins, trying to hide the apprehension in his voice. Evelyn listens quietly, her eyes warm but guarded. "Jake, I'm not asking this lightly. You seem like someone with integrity, and I need someone I can trust without any complicated attachments," she explains. "But there's one condition beyond staying married for a year. You must not ask me why." Jake's mind races as he processes her words. It's clear Evelyn is hiding something she feels he shouldn't know. He searches her expression for clues, but Evelyn's face is unreadable, revealing nothing beyond a faint sadness in her gaze. "What if I say yes?" he asks, his voice barely above a whisper, surprised at himself for even considering it. Evelyn nods, looking relieved, but remaining composed. If you agree, you'll receive half the money at the time of marriage. The rest will be paid once the year is over. You'll be free to live your life afterward as you choose. Jake feels his heart pounding as he contemplates the weight of her conditions. $1 million would give him freedom and his family security. But the secrecy, the unknown reasons behind her offer, gnaw at him. He realizes he has two choices: turn away and continue his quiet life, or take a risk and plunge into an unknown world. Finally, he swallows hard and meets her eyes. "I'll do it." Evelyn's expression softens, her face tinged with gratitude. But as they shake hands to seal their unusual agreement, Jake can't help but wonder what he's really gotten himself into. A month later, Jake finds himself standing beside Evelyn in a small, elegant wedding chapel, exchanging vows that feel surreal. He's barely told anyone about his sudden marriage, and the few friends he has think he's taken a new job far away. The ceremony is intimate and brief, with only a few witnesses and no family. When the officiant pronounces them husband and wife, Evelyn squeezes his hand with a small, almost wistful smile, and for a moment, Jake feels a strange warmth beneath the oddness of it all. Evelyn's wealth is far beyond what he imagined. He moves into her sprawling estate, a mansion hidden away on the outskirts of town, surrounded by gardens, high walls, and a guarded entrance. The house is beautiful but strangely quiet, almost as if it hasn't been lived in for years. Evelyn explains that she rarely entertains visitors and spends much of her time reading or handling business affairs. She encourages Jake to settle in and enjoy the luxuries of her home, providing him with a substantial allowance and even offering to help fund his dream business. Yet, for all the apparent freedom she grants him, she remains an enigma, only sharing surface-level details about her life. Over the next weeks, Jake adapts to his new reality, enjoying the luxuries but feeling a lingering sense of unease. Evelyn is kind and cordial, always respecting his space, yet she keeps an air of distance. Sometimes he catches her in moments of quiet sadness, her gaze unfocused as if lost in memories. At night, as he lies awake in his luxurious new room, he finds himself trying to piece together the mystery. He begins to wonder about her motives, his mind turning over countless questions he promised not to ask. Driven by curiosity, Jake starts exploring the mansion's countless rooms and hallways. One day, in a dusty wing of the house, he finds an old portrait of Evelyn in her younger years, smiling with a man he doesn't recognize. The picture is tucked away behind other framed memories, as if hidden on purpose. Later that night, as they sit together in the drawing room, he musters the courage to ask about her past, without crossing the boundary of the forbidden question. "Evelyn," he begins carefully, "I found an old photo of you and a man. He looked close to you. Was he family?" Evelyn's face shifts, the warmth in her expression fading momentarily before she offers a tight smile. "Someone I once loved," she replies softly, her tone signaling the end of the conversation. Her evasive answer leaves Jake feeling a renewed sense of unease. He starts to wonder if there's more to her story, if the man in the photo somehow connects to the peculiar marriage arrangement. With each passing day, the luxury begins to feel like a gilded cage, and Jake realizes he's no longer content with his new life. He's driven by an urgent need to uncover Evelyn's hidden truths. Months pass, and Jake's curiosity turns into a quiet obsession. He spends every spare moment searching for answers, scouring the mansion for clues to Evelyn's mysterious past. Meanwhile, Evelyn's health seems to waver, and he begins to notice her taking small white pills throughout the day. Each time he questions her well-being, she brushes him off, assuring him it's nothing to worry about. One evening, Jake ventures into the attic, a forgotten part of the mansion filled with dusty boxes and covered furniture. After hours of sifting through old papers and belongings, he uncovers a box labeled Evelyn and Charles. Inside, he finds love letters between Evelyn and a man named Charles, the same man from the portrait. The letters, filled with expressions of love and hope for the future, reveal that they had planned to marry, but that he'd passed away under tragic circumstances. The final letter is a farewell from Charles, penned in shaky handwriting, explaining that he's leaving her everything he has, but urging her to move on and live a full life. As Jake reads through the letters, a clearer picture of Evelyn's past begins to form. Charles was not only her fiancé, but a man of considerable wealth who left her his fortune. For years, she lived under the weight of this loss, bound by the last wishes of the man she'd loved deeply. Jake realizes that her wealth is both a legacy and a burden, one she has carried alone for decades. Jake decides he can no longer stay silent. That night, he finds Evelyn sitting alone in the study, staring into the fire with a distant look in her eyes. He approaches her, holding the letters, and gently places them on the table in front of her. "You don't have to keep all this to yourself," he says softly, watching her expression shift from surprise to resignation. Evelyn looks down at the letters, her hand trembling slightly as she picks one up. "I never meant for you to find these," she whispers, a hint of sadness in her voice. "But perhaps it's time you know the truth." She explains that her marriage offer wasn't just about companionship. With her declining health and lack of family, she feared leaving her wealth to her estranged relatives, who had shown only greed and disregard for her wishes. She wanted someone who could see her beyond her wealth, who would value her for the person she was, not for what she owned. "Then why did you choose me?" Jake asks, his voice a mix of empathy and confusion. "Because you treated me like a person, Jake," Evelyn replies, her voice breaking. "You weren't blinded by money or status. I wanted to give what I had to someone who could appreciate it, someone who could live the life I couldn't." The weight of Evelyn's words settles over Jake, and for the first time, he sees the depth of her loneliness and sorrow. He reaches out, taking her hand, determined to give her the companionship she's longed for. But as he does, he feels the complexity of his own emotions growing, realizing that perhaps the life he's found with Evelyn has become more meaningful than he ever anticipated. In the days that follow, a deep, genuine friendship blossoms between Jake and Evelyn. He cares for her, ensuring she is comfortable and at peace, and they share stories, laughter, and moments of quiet reflection. Jake realizes that Evelyn has become like family to him, and despite the strange circumstances of their marriage, he feels at home in a way he hadn't expected. Then one morning, Evelyn calls Jake to her study. Her face is calm, but there is an unusual brightness in her eyes. She hands him an envelope and gestures for him to sit down. "This is for you," she says simply, watching as he opens it. Inside is a check made out for the remaining amount she'd promised him upon their marriage. Jake looks up, his expression a mixture of surprise and confusion. "Evelyn, what is this for?" he asks, feeling a rush of emotions he can't quite place. "I promised you this money when you agreed to marry me. But Jake," she pauses, a soft smile on her face, "you don't need to stay anymore if you don't want to. You've fulfilled your part of the agreement, and you're free to go if that's what you choose." Jake sits in stunned silence. The freedom he once longed for is now in his grasp. He could take the money, start a new life, and pursue his dreams without any more secrets or restrictions. But as he looks into Evelyn's eyes, he realizes that leaving her now would feel like abandoning her in her final moments, and he can't bring himself to do it. He hands the check back to her. "Evelyn, I don't want the money. Not anymore. I want to stay here with you." His voice is steady, filled with resolve. Evelyn's eyes fill with tears as she takes his hand in hers. "You have no idea how much this means to me, Jake," she whispers, squeezing his hand with unexpected strength. Over the next few months, Evelyn's health declines rapidly. Jake is by her side through it all, offering comfort and companionship. She shares stories of her past, of the life she had envisioned with Charles, and of the unexpected solace she found in her friendship with Jake. Their connection grows into a love that transcends romance, a deep bond of trust and understanding. In her final days, Evelyn has her will drawn up. She makes Jake the primary beneficiary, leaving him not only her estate, but also her final message, a letter in which she thanks him for teaching her to trust and feel joy again in her last days. When Evelyn passes away peacefully one evening, Jake is left with an overwhelming mix of grief and gratitude. The inheritance transforms his life, allowing him to start the business he had always dreamed of, yet he finds himself constantly remembering Evelyn and the lessons she left behind. Evelyn's mansion becomes his home, and later a community space where people from all walks of life gather, a tribute to the remarkable woman who taught him that love, in its many forms, can be found in the most unexpected places. As he looks around the house filled with new life, Jake realizes that Evelyn's legacy was never about wealth, but about connection, kindness, and the bonds that make life truly rich.